ready to reimagine the future of humanity and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, hosted by Dr. David Gruder, an internationally renowned integrative psychologist, human potential expert, author, and social change catalyst, as he delves into the most urgent issues of our time. With the world facing unprecedented challenges and social and political divides growing deeper, it's time to take action. Each episode of this groundbreaking series will empower you with invaluable insights, strategies, and tools to heal these divisions and restore personal freedom and societal well-being. Whether you're a concerned citizen, a courageous leader, an influential figure, or an ambitious entrepreneur, Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will guide you on a transformative journey. Discover your unique role in creating a brighter future for yourself and society at large. Dr. David Gruder will draw upon his extensive knowledge and experience to provide practical solutions for shaping the world we live in. With his passionate exploration of social change, he will help you navigate through the complexities of our time and inspire you to make a meaningful impact. So, prepare yourself for an eye-opening experience as we delve deep into the heart of the matter. Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will challenge your perspectives, ignite your imagination, and equip you with the tools you need to reimagine and redefine the world around you. The time to transform our future is now. Join us on this incredible journey and enter a new era of possibility. For more information on Dr. David Gruder and the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, visit www.rhfy.ca. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, where together, we create a brighter tomorrow. Now, here is the host of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, Dr. David Gruder.
Welcome back to the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential, societal psychotherapist, and futurist who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, helping professionals, and you with vital resources to make it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. The title of this episode is The Future of the Constitution, Reawakening America's Brand for its 250th birthday. To honor the 250th birthday of the United States, we're going to dig deep into its widely forgotten highest founding vision, which just happens to be embedded in the Constitution's preamble. You'll see how to help repair the rarely recognized root causes of life-harming symptoms that cause people to be out of integrity with this nation's most noble purpose, and how to realign with the essential principles and mechanisms of freedom-loving societies through values like free speech, courage, innovation, and virtues. You'll see how to recommit to these timeless principles, which are vital for any freedom-loving society, including restoring America's brand integrity. And you'll discover rarely mentioned yet highly potent ways to rebuild bonds with others that rekindle hope and purpose. This is your golden opportunity to boost your capacity to help repair the United States or the country in which you live. Returning for his second time as a show guest is my dear friend and extraordinary colleague, David M. Corbin, four-time Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author, award-winning inventor, consultant, and consultant to Fortune 500 leaders, and one of today's most dynamic voices in leadership and personal transformation. Known as Robin Williams with an MBA for his high-content wisdom delivered with side-splitting humor and heart, his insights have shaped leaders at AT&T, Motorola, Domino's, Hallmark, and the Department of Veteran Affairs, among others. David has invented multiple breakthrough technologies like the International Design Award-winning Rejuvenation Station for Healthcare Wellness, the Military Supplier's Guide, that transformed procurement, and the innovative status view touch screen patient system honored by Bank of America. David has been an EMT, a crisis center director, as I once was too, a craftsman, a mentor to mentors, and even a backstage participant at the original 1969 Woodstock Festival, which I also attended, and decades later found himself mentoring a key member of Carlos Santana's team. David brings elder wisdom, deep lived experience, and a mentor to mentors spirit. His marvelous book, Reawakening America, Illuminating Her Brand, is why he's joining me for this episode. To me, he is far more than a fellow David. He's my brother from another mother. David, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
And in this first segment, we're going to look at the symptoms that not enough of us recognize are indications of how the United States is committing brand slaughter with its highest founding vision, and as an outgrowth of that, with its Constitution. But first, David, how did you initially become interested in helping America restore brand integrity with its highest founding vision?
Well, it's interesting. I had written a book a long time ago called Illuminate, Harnessing the Positive Power of Negative Thinking. And it's all about, look, we can't solve everything we face, but we can't solve anything unless we face it. So if we illuminate, and I teach face it, follow it, and fix it, we illuminate everything. And one of the things that I've been illuminating as a patriot, yes, as a fellow Woodstock veteran with you, is this great nation of ours. I protested a war as a patriot. I didn't burn flags. But I protested as a patriot. And today, as I, get a little long in the tooth and gray in the hair, where there still is some hair, I look at this great nation, and I've just, during COVID, I dove into books about the birth story of the nation and some of the remarkable, if I move my camera around, although I don't know, do I look stuck to you? Am I frozen, David?
No, you're fine.
Okay, great. On my side, I'm frozen. But if I move the thing over, you'll see, titles of, Barack Obama's next to Richard Nixon, who's next to John Kennedy, who's next to Benjamin Franklin, who's next to Alexander Hamilton. And I just dove in and I said, well, wait a second. I'm illuminating everything. But then something weird and magical happened. And I don't know that I ever shared this with you, David. For those who are listening and watching, David and I and our spouses spend precious time together. We know each other well. We follow one another's paths. David and I have shared the stage together, co-faculty at entrepreneurial incubators, etc. We shared a little small crowd in 1969 called Woodstock with, I think there were about 400,998 other people there. But what I may not have shared with you, David, is this. I was at a conference. As you know, I mentor Greg Reed. He puts on a marvelous program called Secret Knock, and its 20th anniversary.
Hard to imagine.
It is. And amongst, other people who share the stage, the president of Mexico, the inventor of, email and Ugg boots and amazing people. Yeah. There's a marvelous woman named Victoria Rader. She goes by the name of Vika. She's a marvelous, enlightened being. And she came up to me. We didn't know each other well. And she literally came up to me shaking. And I was sitting on a couch in the very first row. It was like a VIP couch before the stage there. And I said, are you okay? She goes, yes. And she's shaking. I said, talk to me. What's going on? She said, I just had a vision. And I've been told to share this with you. David, you need to write about America's brand. And I went, wow. And I got those God bumps too, you know. And I went, yeah, illuminate and branding and yeah, and my passion for this nation. And I said, thank you, I will. We hugged in a very deep connection. And I knew it was time for me to apply those different components of my world. Illuminate, face it, follow it, and fix it. Brand slaughter. Are we building our brand or killing our brand? The illuminated brand. How are we showing up in the process? And my passion for America, and that's what birthed uh, this book, Reawakening America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I'll be saying some things about your book in the final segment of this episode. Uh, in the remaining time that we have in this first segment of the episode, I want to find out from you, David, what distressing symptoms that most people experience or notice, but don't necessarily connect with America's brand slaughter. What are the symptoms of brand slaughter in the United States?
Well, the deepest symptom is our lack of cohesion as citizens together. You know, we started out with people leaving their farms and going out in Massachusetts to areas where they were united in their awareness and their articulation of certain values. I mean, this nation started off as a group of pissed off people, right? And what they
Mm-hmm.
were pissed off was that they felt that their freedoms, their values were being dissed, being disregarded. So the number one indicator is the lack of conversation. We don't all have to agree. Conversation about that which unites us, our values, our values. And so I would say, you know, if I were triaging, the greatest and most obvious symptom of some dis-ease is that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to agree with you, and I would also add that another symptom that's connected to that is what I refer to as politicism. It's the last ism that is socially endorsed and indulged, viciously vilifying leaders, media, citizens, and even family members whose political views don't match ours. And you know, this is. Do you see that similarly or differently?
Well, it used to be at Thanksgiving dinner or some holiday dinner, the only thing to fear was crazy old Uncle Frank getting a little tipsy and dropping a couple of F bombs. Now, it's any reference to anything political. Oh my God. So
Mhm.
when we're walking on thin ice amongst those whom we love, yeah, there's another. I mean, you know, you and I were, you know, around the crisis intervention. One of the mega symptoms of that crisis is the inability to be, to feel free, to express oneself, um, and frankly, the lost art of listening.
Mhm. Yes. Well said. And so the rest of this episode is going to dive into the root causes of the symptoms that David and I have just been discussing, what to look for in a solution to that, and then in the final segment, David's version of that solution, which I'll come back to your book during that final segment. After a short break that's coming up, my guest, brand integrity expert David M. Corbin, and I will dig beneath the surface to expose the root causes of citizens, businesses, the education system, and media and government officials slaughtering America's brand. And that's going to get really juicy. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future in Yours show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and we'll be back momentarily. Welcome back. Before the break, the master of illumination, my guest, David M. Corbin, and I discussed some of the key symptoms people experience or know about, but don't necessarily associate with brand slaughter of America's highest vision. In this segment, as you already know, we'll delve into under-recognized root causes of that brand slaughter, including constitutional brand slaughter. David, what are the root causes of America's brand slaughter symptoms?
Lack of clarity of who we are, lack of clarity of our birth story and the journey that brought us here. I think lack of clarity of what makes America great, wonderful, unique, different, with some competitive advantages, if you will, and some competitive disadvantages, and certainly competitive parity, but also the competitive uniqueness, which I think is the essence of our birth story. You know, it saddens me. I was doing some research at the Library of Congress, and I took a break and I went over to the Capitol. It was the first time I was at the Capitol since the January 6th debacle. And I stood at areas where I knew that people were in stress and perhaps right near murdered, and people were banging on the Capitol, screaming, "America, America, America." And I thought to myself, if I were to ask them, hey, can you tell me 3 unique propositions of this great democratic republic, that which differentiates us such that you're so proud to scream America? Could you give me 3, just 3 examples of what that is? I'm sad to believe that I don't think they would answer with anything other than America, America. So, you know, it was in 1970 that we stopped teaching civics as a course in this great nation. It then became,
by the way, with the Kent State Massacre, which occurred in 1970.
Concurrent with, yes, and the Nixon administration and a whole lot there. And I've read about Nixon, and I actually respect the man tremendously. But boy, oh boy, he made some big mistakes, as did, Lyndon Baines Johnson with Vietnam. Yes. But the point is that we stopped teaching that which our founding fathers set up as a mandatory institution, public education, so that we teach people about this nation so that we can propagate and perpetuate the values that they fought for. And the course just became a little add-on to social studies. And in the book, for example, there is a tour of iCivics, which is an online program set up by Sandra Day O'Connor to bring us back to that. But I think the etymology is the lack of etymology. I think the etymology, the problem is the lack of understanding of what is the birth story, and fundamentally, and I repeat myself often, and I don't ask forgiveness for that, the fundamental values that are exposed in the Constitution, certainly, but also, of course, the Declaration of Independence. And I think that's, honestly, I think it's that simple. We just don't remember who we are or what we stand for. So if we don't know that, I mean, my cell phone, my GPS is irrelevant if it's not attached to a satellite up there. And our nation, our Constitution is irrelevant if it's not attached to our values and our knowing it and seeing how are we living our values, how are we not living our values, how are we living our brand, and how are we conducting what I call brand slaughter.
Mm-hmm. You've said, of course, a big mouthful, and I love that. And I want to.
What are you calling a big mouth?
One big mouth to another. And I want to unpack those. Before I do that, I want to just do a footnote about the iCivics online program that Sandra Day O'Connor developed. for those who don't recall or don't know that, she was a Supreme Court justice. So she knew what she was talking about. There is a massive, and this is root cause, I think, a massive lack of clarity about who we are, our birth story, the journey that brought us here, what makes us different, our competitive uniqueness. And the here's what I want to get your impressions about in specific about that. I have for decades asked people in keynotes and when I've appeared on other people's shows when this has been the topic to say what America's mission statement is. And most people say, does it have one? And I say, yes, of course it does. It's just not called that. It's called the preamble to the United States Constitution. And so I then say, I don't expect that you've probably memorized the preamble, but paraphrasing it, what would you say are the key pieces of America's mission statement in the preamble? Most people, if they can say anything about that, they only say one thing: personal freedom, which is, of course, part of the preamble. But the preamble basically sets forth a country that dares to engage in an experiment that's utterly audacious, which is the experiment of harmonizing what it calls personal freedom and the common good, that I call self-sovereignty and collective well-being. And people don't seem to even know that fundamental about our mission statement. What are your thoughts on that?
I got nothing. That's it. That's it. It's a mic drop there. You see, personal freedom, common good. Personal freedom, not personal freedom or personal. I use the word avarice. The personal grab.
Narcissism.
I'm working on the newest book I'm working on is called The Spiritual Opportunist, From Me to We, right? Because I kind of grew up as I wasn't about the common good. It was about the me good as a kid growing up, and looking at the angles and stuff. And then something hit me. Maybe it was the divine Christ consciousness. I don't know. And now I've become a spiritual opportunist using those same skills and all. We contemplated early on being spiritual opportunists, which is to say, looking out for one another for the common good so that we can all enjoy the freedoms that we declared as being imperative. So our mission statement really is that. And there's so many other clues. This is Hansel and Gretel have dropped a whole lot of clues here that we could retrace our steps back to freedom, liberty, love, innovation, on and on and on and on and on. And these are the fundamental values of America. So our mission statement should be, we the people ascribe to these values in everything that we do. And we endeavor to keep ourselves and hold ourselves accountable to that, so that we the people keep we the people on track and in adherence to that thing called our Constitution.
And we insist that we only vote into office or keep in office those who are upholding those very things.
What are you smoking?
Well, I'm one of the few people who can honestly say at 15 years old, when I came to Woodstock, that I arrived at Woodstock a drug-free virgin, and I actually left Woodstock a drug-free virgin. So I wasn't smoking anything there.
Honey, call the Guinness Book of World Records. I have something for them.
This whole me to we piece, I think, is really important. And what I want to add to in what you're saying to lend my voice to yours has to do with the first phase of the human potential movement versus the phase it needs to move into next. In the first phase, in the second half of the 20th century, we were devoted, and rightly so, to finally reuniting the mind-body-spirit split, which was very important work, that integrative health kind of approach. And that's me, me, and me. Mind, body, spirit is me, me, and me. And the next phase of the human potential movement, which our forebears actually intuitively understood, even though they weren't thinking in terms of human potential, but in terms of their highest vision, is from me to me, we, and us. Authenticity is the me part. We is the connection part, the collaboration part, and the us part is the common good. And a whole person and a whole society harmonizes me, we, and us. And that's the next phase of the human potential movement, which finally has a chance to catch up to the highest vision that birthed the United States in the first place.
Well, David, I agree, and there's a component that I wouldn't say disagree, and that is this: when we're looking at the mind, body, spirit, if we're looking at the quadrinity of the physical, the emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual,
yeah,
I believe the spiritual, or my interpretation of the spiritual, is the we, the collective spirit of which I am a part of, that the Shivaya, the God within. So
yes,
I see
I
I
agree.
see from Louise Hay back to all of the names that you and I sat and talked about just the other day, from the
Yep.
Wallace Waddles and others, and oh my goodness, and certainly Brother Wayne Dyer, rest his soul.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual component, I think, is the we. So there's the me,
Yes,
the meanness,
it's
the
supposed
you-ness.
to be.
Yeah, that's how I have always interpreted it. But I know the emphasis was on the the personal development,
Right,
and,
right.
and I know
That's the
that.
point that I was making.
But and I sincerely hope that other people feel that interpretation, that the spiritual is the gross component,
Yeah.
the metaphysical fabric of you and me and everyone else that's on this, every sentient being.
I agree. And after another short break, we'll get to the heart of the matter, which is what to look for in a solution that reawakens America by restoring integrity with her brand, including constitutional integrity. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future in Your show on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and we'll continue momentarily. Before the break, my marvelous guest and dear friend, the Robin Williams of business and societal development, David Corbin, and I delved into less recognized but vitally important root causes of American brand slaughter. And as I mentioned in this segment, we'll reveal ingredients to look for when you've decided to help reawaken America's brand or your country's highest brand and restore constitutional integrity. David, I'll say more about your book in the next segment, but for now, what ingredients should citizens, businesses, educators, media, community leaders, and elected and appointed government officials look for when they want to do their part to restore America's brand integrity?
Well, I think every journey begins with the first step of introspection. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? What do I want? What do I really want? What do I really, really, really freaking want? What do I give a hoot about? Etc. There's that. We can't give what we don't have. So when I see a politician who's, pushing something, and the foundation is creaky and weaky, right? I was like, what are you doing? Do you know what you are? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're looking to do? Do you know what your desired outcome is? So I think the first step is clarity. And I don't want to sound rhetorical or silly or banal or sophomoric, but I think clarity is key. That's That's the first step. So with your personal clarity, I think it was the psychologist Rotter who had a locus of control assessment or instrumentation. With an internal locus of control, I know who I am to the extent that I can. I know what I believe in, and I know what I want to have happen with this legislation or this speech or this whatever. And I know where I want us to end up for the common good. With that clarity, articulating it to myself, I could then articulate it to others and then hopefully resonate with others. And in that resonance, through the law of sympathetic resonance, we create that sort of movement that we can get legislation passed. That, you see, but I think it starts with that clarity into resonance, resonance into action, action into integrity.
Yeah. And the what you're talking about with that kind of internal locus of control is the self-sovereignty that makes sympathetic resonance possible. I actually refer to it now as a spiritual locus of control, where my internal locus of control is in the hands of my highest self rather than my ego.
Mm.
And for those who aren't familiar with that terminology, internal locus of control is in contrast to external locus of control, which basically boiled down means the world is the boss of me. The world is the boss of my internal state. The world is the boss of my well-being. And that is a prescription for victimization rather than self-sovereignty. So first step is internal locus of control, personal introspection, and clarity. What's the next step from there?
Well, everything, life is simple when you have step number one. Step number two is you're past gravity, and you have zero resistance, less resistance, much less resistance. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to anchor back to a webinar that you had done once recently, David, and you were talking about Bernays and all, and I forget what he had this word, his term, not yours, of like idiot or something like that, which are the individuals who just follow along. Do you remember that terminology, David?
Right. Well, it was not Bernays that coined the term. The term is from propaganda theory, which is useful idiot.
Useful idiot. Thank you. And so my point is, absent step one, we end up with a bunch of useful idiots who are propagating someone else's agenda. And that's the individual who's banging, I think, many, not all, banging on the Capitol, screaming America. They don't know the agenda. It's someone else's agenda, you see. And so I think step number one gets us out of gravity, and then it's free floating into do what's right, do what's good, do what you feel resonates with your highest beliefs and aspirations for what you're trying to propagate. You see? So I don't have the 5 steps to do this, the 9 keys to doing that. I don't have that. Number one is know thyself. And to thine own self be true, and thou shalt follow the night, the day thou canst not be false to any others. Know thyself, go deep in here.
Yes.
Then take action. Face it, follow it, and fix it. Face it. What do I want? Blah, blah, blah. Follow it. Where are we out of integrity with that? Fix it. With clarity and resonance and love, move on, baby, and make it happen.
And I think what you're illuminating with face, follow, and fix requires something that's implicit in the step after the first step, not to make this all linear because you and I think differently in those ways, but still it's worth making explicit, which is the necessity of multidimensional openness, the necessity of once we are clear that we know ourselves, we know our values, we know what's really important to us, what we care about, what we really want, then being teachable, being open to looking at issues from multiple vantage points so that we can actually co-create integrative solutions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's having that beginner's mind and listening. Again, listening, really with empathy. You know, our friend wrote a book called "Love Is Just Damn Good Business." Steve Farber.
Yes.
You and I live. Love is just damn good business. And sorry, Steve, but we didn't need the book to teach us that. We know that, but we're so glad that you're propagating that message, and I'm propagating it regularly. And so, listening with empathy and love, and why aren't the question is why aren't we doing that? Is because we're not really clear on ourselves. They're not clear on themselves. So we're just going to be the, what did you call that term? The
useful idiots?
So we're just useful idiots to ourselves and others.
Yeah.
So I think listening to ourselves, I can't listen to you unless I listen to myself first. I can't give away what I don't have. So listening to ourselves and tapping in there, and then you make a great point, David. Of course, listening to others, listening with our eyes, not just our ears, but fully listening and embracing a message and the energy of another, whether we agree with them or not. We could have a magnificent agree to disagree. I disagree on that. I disagree on that. Pass the mashed potatoes, right? We should get back to our life, get back to our table of connection and all. And again, I don't mean to sound banal, but I see that as critically important.
Well, I do too. And it's listening with empathy and love. It's also listening and learning, expanding. So, you know, the there's a term, oh gosh, why am I forgetting it right now? But there's a technical term for people thinking that because they know what their beliefs are, they understand life, the universe, and everything, and there's nothing else to learn, right? And
I think the term is narcissism.
well, yeah. For sure. I'll remember the technical term I'm trying to remember at 2 o'clock this morning. But
Yeah.
that's really important. You know, when we forget to learn from each other. So not just listening, but daring to expand our view of things because we're hearing other perspectives from people who have different life experiences than ours. That's where the richness happens, and that's where the emergence of integrative solutions becomes possible.
I've had some magnificent experiences of that in embracing into my world some of my pickleball friends and some of my clients
Mhm.
have who we were polar on a lot of the political spectrum. My
Mhm.
God, what they've enlightened me with, so that I can consider. And I ingested it. And then I digested some and I spit out some others. But yes, it's that. I don't know what we can call that, but I guess it's embracing all sides. There's the dialectic, the this plus this equals that. There's the PDCA, plan, do, check, act, right? Check yourself. Check, right? Where you're coming from. How does this fit? I love basic clinical counseling. If I understand you correctly, Bubba, what you're saying is regarding ICE is blah, blah, blah. Am I hearing you correctly? Well, yes or no, or well, please, blah, blah. Yeah, thank you. I will sit with that. Thank you. See, what I don't like, David, is when people say to me, well, in my considered opinion, and I'm thinking to themselves, I don't believe you've ever really considered it. I don't think you've considered in in the process of your opinion. But yeah, I don't say that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
taking
remembered the
that in,
term the Dunning-Kruger
the
effect,
Dunning-Kruger effect,
thinking
absolutely.
we
Yeah,
know more than we really do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So now everybody could write that down. Dunning-Kruger. Boom.
Yeah.
There you
Dunning-Kruger. So that what's between the lines as we wrap up this segment in what you're saying is it's crucial that we move beyond positions arm wrestling
go.
to
Mm.
discovering and appreciating everyone's deep concerns and high intentions that lead to their positions. Forget about the positions. Go underneath the positions to illuminate deep concerns and high intentions that lead to those. So after our upcoming break, we're going to return for this episode's final segment, during which I'll be asking David Corbin to reveal how he equips us to restore brand integrity with America's highest vision. And I'll be speaking more about his book on this topic as well. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Your show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and will return shortly. Brand slaughter illuminator and brand integrity restorer, David M. Corbin. I just gave you a new moniker. And I unpacked ingredients to look for when you want to help restore integrity with America's highest vision, or the highest vision of your country. As I already mentioned during the final segment of this episode, which again is called The Future of the Constitution, Reawakening America's Brand for its 250th birthday, David will reveal how he provides what we suggested in the last segment that you look for, and I'll then let you know how to access his amazing resource for helping you do this. And after that, David and I will each share the big takeaways we hope you have gained from this episode, followed by my closing comments. So, David, how do you help America shift from brand slaughter to brand integrity?
Well, first, it comes back to knowing what the brand is. If you don't know what the brand is, you're not going to be able to live it, protect it, be it, propagate it, etc. So it's knowing what that is, and then again, check yourself. Do an inventory, face it, follow it, and fix it. Do an inventory. Am I living? I love when I have people come up to me and say, I know you've been talking about Americans' brand values and stuff, but you really facilitated my going inside and asking myself what my values are. What are my values? And am I living in integrity with that? And then I work with corporations to have them articulate what their values are and have every employee take an inventory. I call it an Abbey, an audit of brand integrity. Are you living the brand value in that moment, which is brand integrity? Or are you out of integrity and creating brand slaughter? So I think it sort of starts with that. I can't protect something if I don't even know what the heck it is, or where it is, or why it is.
Right. And so we've talked around the question of what is America's highest brand.
Mm.
Can you encapsulate that in more or less a soundbite that people can really remember and refer to? What is America's highest brand?
Justice, love, freedom. When after the Second World War, when we found and rounded up all these Nazis, we showed the world we believe in justice. And we didn't just hang them from the highest tree. Not yet. First, we took them through justice. And we had the Nuremberg trials. And when we found them guilty, then we hung them from the highest trees. But our brand was justice, and we lived in integrity with that, even under the great, great, great pressure of that. So does that somewhat answer your question?
Yeah, well, and this is the question I'm trying to anticipate from our audience. So, yes, what America's highest brand is justice, integrity with justice, love, freedom, and being concerned about one another, because we are social beings. We are not islands, the way Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel talked about in their famous song, I Am a Rock. I'm a rock, I'm an island, and a rock feels no pain, and an island never cries. No, 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 no. We are harmonizing personal freedom and the common good.
And these things, David. Now,
Yes.
I hope I have enough battery power that you can see this, but I'll read them.
Yep.
Freedom, free speech, limited governance, responsibility, justice, courage, innovation, cool things. Now, I'm going to check my plug while we're talking. I can still hear you, but I just need to
Yeah.
check my plug.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. And yes, what David is showing you table of contents for his book Reawakening America, Illuminating Her Brand, because each of those chapters is about a specific aspect of America's brand, and it is essentially an audit of brand integrity. And so no matter what country you're from, I want to strongly recommend that you make a priority of reading David Corbin's marvelous book, again, Reawakening America, Illuminating Her Brand. It reads like a conversation between the United States and her mentor. Here's the synopsis. America stood at the crossroads of her identity, feeling an overwhelming sense of disconnection. The energy that once drove her, her commitment to the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice, seemed to have faded into the background. In her quest to serve all, she had lost touch with the core values that had once made her a beacon of hope and opportunity to the world. And guided by her lifelong mentor, America embarks in this book on a transformational journey, visiting companies, institutions, and communities that have kept her founding principles alive. And along the way in the book, she confronts the hard truths of her disconnection and rediscovers the timeless values that David was referring to, such as freedom, free speech, limited governance, responsibility, justice, courage, innovation, equality, democracy, civics, and virtues. And through heartfelt conversations, candid reflections, and inspiring stories, America reignites her light, renewing her promise to herself and her people. Reawakening America, Illuminating Her Brand is a call to every citizen to remember, to reflect, and to rekindle the spirit that made America great, not by blind nostalgia, but by courageous action. Even if you don't live in the United States, you'll discover foundational values of all societies that value freedom. And I hope David is back with us now. I'm not sure if he is. We might have lost him. But what I'll say as we try to get him back is that you go to davidcorbin.com. That's David, Corbin, davidcorbin.com. And while you're there, also be sure to check his other books, such as Preventing Brand Slaughter and Illuminate, and his From WTF to OMG series. That's What the Bleep to Oh My God series, as well as the other breakthrough services that he provides. And what I'm going to do is, as we try to get him back, I'm going to share the takeaway that I hope you get from this episode. And hopefully by the time I'm wrapped up with that, he'll be back with us. Mine is search for your core values and understand the highest founding vision of the United States' core values so that you can develop your personal relationship with America's core values or the core values of the country you're in. and how they show up in your life, and search for those commonalities with others rather than getting stuck on arm wrestling matches about positions like I referred to earlier. You know, America's brand slaughter can be ended, and it needs to be ended. And our brand integrity can be restored if we have the vision and the commitment to do that. And that's going to require transpartisan thinking. As long as we remain siloed in thinking that my perspective is the whole picture rather than my perspective needs to be incorporated and included into a whole picture that is only co-created through combining multiple perspectives. Only when we have that understanding can we actually embody the highest vision that the United States was birthed in order to learn how to embody. And the reason I'm saying it that way is because those of us who have really studied US history and the origins of our country and the origins of the Constitution and the origins of the Declaration of Independence that preceded the Constitution, we know that the United States has a pretty wicked shadow. So this is not about denying all of the shadowy aspects of the United States that that were in action as it was being born and have been in action since then. Those shadowy aspects are there. But what's really, and we can't, it's not helpful to be in denial of those things. But if we're in denial of the highest vision, if we use our awareness of the shadowy aspects of the United States as a way to obscure or blind ourselves to the highest vision that gave birth to this country, which was supposed to be a role model for all countries around the world that value these highest principles, we've lost before we start. What's hard remembering is our highest vision, which is our grand experiment to harmonize personal freedom, again, as I call it, self-sovereignty, and the common good, and using this clarity to guide all of our offline and online political conversations, because political hatred is currently massively reinforced by so much of our society, and that political hatred contributes to brand slaughter of the United States, not the restoration of brand integrity. So again, get your hands on David Corbin's marvelous book, Reawakening America, Illuminating Her Brand, through his website, davidcorbin.com. Thank you so much, David, even though technical issues prevented you from reconnecting into the recording, for helping us illuminate and restore America's authentically highest brand, and for being here on my show. And thank all of you for joining me for this episode of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. This has been Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential and societal psychotherapist who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, and you with impactful resilience that makes it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. I invite you to explore my main website, Dr. David Gruder, or Dr. Gruder rather, drgruder.com, where you'll find a link to watch or listen to all of this show's episodes and more. I enthusiastically invite you to tune in next time to another spell-busting, uplifting, and actionable episode on how together we can and will build a better future for ourselves and for humanity.